So if we look at what we made last Friday, I'm glad we all survived a Friday lecture. It wasn't that bad, right? Does anyone remember what this app does? What we made on Friday? I'm going to show you. Remember how groundbreaking it was? Before I show you. Anyone remember? Yeah. I lost my circles, but it makes this square go down. So I hit this button, drops, comes back. Great.
You changed it.
What?
You changed it.
I did at the end of the day make it so it disappears. But if we didn't have this animation, what would happen? I have an animation where I say, okay, go update the views of the subviews of the default view, which includes this button and this view. I say, go change the alpha to 0, but then change it back to 1, and then reset the constant to this old constant, which was the previous top Y anchor constraint. Top anchor constraint, sorry. So if I'm changing back the color and I am changing back the constraint, what should I expect to happen if I run this without an animation, Phoenix? Makes sense to me. Yeah, nothing's happening. Because all this animation is saying is make those changes within this certain 1.2 seconds. That's all it's saying. It's not doing anything special except saying you should change the views over 1.2 seconds and end up wherever this completion block says to go. So fall down with this new constraint I set up here, fade out, and then after completing that, all we did here was we made sure that we had reset the actual position of that block and made sure that it was back to an alpha of 1. The animation doesn't do anything besides some nice fancy visual way of showing that. Questions? This is super important because knowing that means that we have to make all those changes ourselves. The animation doesn't do any magic for where our things are. It just does the magic for showing what happens to them. Phoenix.
Is the alpha ticking up from 0 to 1 or is it just going from 0 to 2?
So I have this animation where it starts at 1, goes to 0, but has an auto reverse. So it goes from 1 to 0 at the bottom, then 0 back to the 1 at the auto reverse.
Right, but I mean, is it like going 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, or just 1?
That's a good question. Let's see. So it's gradually fading. I would say it's like probably over this 1.2, it's changing by, 0.08 of a tick each 1/10 of a second. Sorry?
Does the calculation turn for you and does it based on duration of time?
Yes, it does the math for you. So it smooths out that change for you, which is why it's moving at like a constant rate. All this is smooth. Do you guys like animations? No? Okay, that's fine. I want to show you another project I've been working on. Let me make sure it works. This one's really cool. Are you ready? Boom, boom, boom. So here I'm flipping a card. What do you think I have to do to make this flip actually happen? Swap out the top and bottom constraints. What are some other ideas? Jason. Sorry? Pick a different animation option. Okay. Let's see if it does that. Well, this is not a good case for testing that, but let's see. It's okay. It's a good try. It is actually an animation option, but there's something else we're going to want to do with it. So let me show you my code for these changes. We've seen UI view.animate. There's something just as simple called UI view.transition, which is saying take my view from where it is to some new state that I'm setting up here. And all that is if my view's background color is blue, make it red. If my view's background color is red, make it blue. And so when I run this app and I press the button, it's just changing it. But let me show you something very important here, because animations, again, and a transition is just the type of animation. Animations don't make the change for you, so you have to know how that animation works. I took out that option that flips it from the top. Now what's going to happen is it's going to make that change from red to blue, blue to red. If we slow it down, let's see what happens. Over 2.5 seconds, it's going to change from blue to red and red to blue. So it's going to change whatever needs to be changed there in terms of R, G, and B values over that time. It's kind of like it's scrolling over some time. All I did was, for this transition, add transition flip from top. So you have a whole set of animation options for making a change to a view and showing that change. So this, I don't know, say you're playing some game where there are 3 cards down and one of them has a king and the other ones have 3s and only one of those is the winner. Bless you. A UI view is just a square or a rectangle, right? And all it does is show something. So all this transition thing is like doing is flipping a card. This is like flipping it from the top. Let's see what curl up is. You have a whole bunch of options that you can test out here. They're probably in some kind of, I don't know, enum kind of thing. Whoa. Whoa. That thing is built in for you. What? Yes. Or like, this is just like a sticky note, right? But the important thing to note is that the transition is not changing the color for you. Watch, not the thing that's getting pulled up, but the thing below it. The transition in color is occurring just like it did when we didn't have an option here. It's changing without the help of the transition. That's the most important thing to notice here. These transitions and these animations, not to say they're kind of like tricks, but they're just something pretty that's built in. You still have to do the work. You still have to say, change the color over this amount of time to do some stuff. And then any stuff that needs to be changed is in this animations block. And you can add a completion to change certain things back. So this is UI view.transition. Adam. Okay. I'm sorry? By actually, what do you mean? Oh, no idea. I do not know what curl up has behind it. A lot of these things are just built into like these transition things. There's also a library called Core Animation, which you might have seen if you were trying to just Google how to make things grow.
So is this similar to, like, for example,
Yeah, these are a bunch of options just like you have with segueing or navigating on your navigation stack. The main thing to notice about this transition as opposed to animate is that you have to specify the view that you're going to change. So with an animate, we could have done all these changes in here. Let's say animate with duration 1.2 seconds, with the animation. Do this. What do you think this will do? Just going to change like we saw with the transition before. We could add some more options, but we could also animate a whole bunch of things at once in here. Let's try adding some options. You ready? UI view animate, animate, options. All right, so this will be 1.2 seconds, 0-second delay. And we'll say in here, transition, curl up. In here, make those changes, sorry. And then here, our completion handler will be nil. So we've got animate with the same option, the same duration. Let's see what happens. Ah, weird. So by specifying the view that we're using for the transition, it knows which square to look at. It knows what to actually perform that transition on. This transition option for a transition curl up isn't going to work with just an animate function because you haven't specified what its, let's say, target is. So this animation is going to make the change, but it's not going to do that special transition stuff that's built into UI view.transition.
So where would it be applying it to
In the animate function? No, sorry, I'm asking back, yeah.
Yes.
What would it be? It is just doing all these changes over 1.2 seconds, and it doesn't really know what to do with this. This is from the same enum as like reverse, auto reverse, and like, what was the other one? Repeat. It's from the same enum for the same set of options, but it doesn't know what to do with that.
So can you use animation options with transform?
Yeah. So we actually are. I guess to Liana's question, we were able to use transition curl up in an animate function. We could use repeat in here. We could use auto reverse.
Well, were we not using animate on Friday? And it was animating it in like auto reverse or repeat?
Yeah. So we have that same set of options here, but now we can do more things like transition it. So this transition applies to a specific view doing a specific transition effect. That's just the add-on here.
What happens if you do like transition roll up in the one that you switch sides?
Sorry, say that again?
What happens if you use two different transitions?
Let's try it. I'm going to get rid of repeat because that just goes on. The flip. Flip from top. Flip. Flip. Let's see. It seems like it's picking flip from top. Maybe the order of the options here matters. Nope. Just picking that one. Really could not tell you why. Say that again? I think it's just because they're all from the same enum. or not enum, I guess, but same set of animation options, which is an option set, which is basically an enum. We can learn more about animation options, but I will leave that to you all. Options for animating using block objects. Boom. There are a lot of them. This is the one that Phoenix used, I think. It causes the animation to begin quickly and then slow as it completes. Ease in, cause the animation to begin slowly and then speed up as it progresses. So we could probably add those options to what we have here. Let me get rid of the flip, because I like the curl. And then we'll add a curve. Ease in. You ready? Whoa. 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 Cool. So that's a transition. It's just one more layer on what we did with UIView.animate. The only thing to remember is you select the target that you are transitioning. Or some questions. Phoenix? I prefer constraints just because it's not all math, for laying out your views and ratios and stuff like that. But really, a ton of people still use frames, a ton of people use constraints. And I would say the goal should be that you use only one of those things in your project as much as possible. Cool. All right, let's take an 8-minute break. Okay. So, um, so. We've got transitions. Those are pretty cool. Here's Tia. Hi, Tia. How are you? Good. So, if I understand it correctly, you've done some stuff with film before, right? With like videos and film? Yeah. Do you know what a keyframe is? To discuss what? Lighting. I don't know. I was hoping you could tell me. I don't really know anything about film. Okay, no worries. Um, so we're not dealing with film, but our views work in a very similar way to the way that cameras do. At least specifically in the fact that what looks like a smooth motion to the human eye is actually just a series of moments in time where a new image is being placed. Kimball, you have a question? Tell me about it. Cool. Makes sense. So when you're watching a movie, for David to get from here to there, it has to be broken down into specific frames, specific pieces of film. Would that be adequate? I don't know. Tia, 29. Is that how fast I'm moving or how fast I'm moving?
That's how many pictures, like to have smooth motion,
Hmm.
you need to have, well, I'm here.
Like to make motion seem continuous to the human eye.
Right.
Cool. 25 frames. So our phones work the same way. Nothing smooth, just at one point, we started doing something, and then over a series of blocks of time, we kept doing that. We have an animation that does this for us. And what we have to specify is how long is the total length of time? And then within that, which is a nice little block of code, we're going to create other blocks of code for each frame. What we're going to specify about each frame is relative to the beginning. This is fun. Relative to the beginning of the entire animation, when is their start? When is their duration? And then what changes should we expect to see? We already do the whole duration and make changes thing. The only difference with the keyframe animation is that we have to know where does each change fit in with the change over the entire course of the entire animation. So if this is a 6-second long animation, this starts at time 0, lasts for a second. This starts at 1 and lasts for a second, starts at 2 and lasts for a second, 3 lasts for a second, 4 lasts for a second, and 5 lasts for a second. Just measuring time and changes that you want to make at specific times in there. So give me 6 things I should do, and I'll try to perform a keyframe animation. Like me physically standing here right now. Yeah, what do you want me to do for the first second? Okay. That's like the easiest way to win Simon Says. You say jump up, and then they come down. You never said come down. Albert?
There's one set.
Sprint. Thanks so much, everyone. Alex, what should I do for the 4th second? Alex, I need a 4th thing to do in my keyframe. What? Wow. All right, 2 more. Any volunteers? Sunny. Hat, had. One more. Nina, what do you want me to do for a whole second? Okay. All right, I'm ready.
We're gonna perform all these.
I am going to. Can someone like find something that counts out seconds online?
I don't know what it is.
What?
I could start
No, I'm just gonna go as far as I can in that second.
Wait, what?
Like I'm gonna try to sprint, but when the second's up, I gotta go walk. Sam, can you find something that just counts out? That's good. I need 6 seconds. We could. Okay. It'll count?
Like out loud.
Yeah. Alright, let's just count out loud.
I have one.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, can you start from the beginning? Tell me when to yell.
Insanity side. Okay, start. I'm doing
I did that.
Would it help if we told you, like, yelled it out?
No, I don't wait again, but sure. Okay.
Again?
Yeah. Just having fun.
You really want to do this?
I guess so.
Sorry. Jump out! Sprint! Walk!
Okay. I'm gonna go wash my hand. But all that stuff. Now that
Yeah.
Hi again. So we can do the exact same thing in our code. Let's set that up together. Are you ready? All right, here's what I've done. Our flip button goes and does the flippy stuff. I'm going to get rid of that auto reverse. Now, I've added another button. It's our key button. Sorry? What? The comma. Thank you. Got a key button. Right now it just does what the flip button does because I just copied and pasted and felt lazy. Let's make it do something else though. So, We've seen UIView.animate. We've seen UIView.transition. How do you think we get a keyframe animation? That? We could do that. We don't need to just yet. Because all we're saying right now for a keyframe animation is we want to make a series of changes done over a set period of time. So there's actually another function on UIView, a class level function called animate keyframes. It's got a time interval, which makes sense. It's got a delay, which we've seen before. It's got options, but these are not UIView.animation options. These are UIView.keyframe animation options. Should we go look into those? Let's just have a look real quick. Go see my friend, see if there's any documentation. Get rid of this ugliness. Pancakes. Keyframe animation options are used with the animate. Great. What is this list of things? Begin from current state. I don't know what that means. Can we find out more? Cool. The option to start an animation from the current setting associated with an already in-flight animation. If this option is not present, any in-flight animations are allowed to finish before the new animation is started. If another animation is not in flight, this option has no effect. So we could add we could do an animation that has inside of it another animation, which might in particular be an animate keyframes animation. We could chain all these things inside of each other, but we need to tell them the way in which they're going to occur. So begin from current state might be, I have another animation already in progress. Should I then want to do something with an animation coming from keyframes, I'll do it there. We've got a bunch of these options. Some of them might look familiar, some might not. One we're going to use is calculation mode paste. What do you think that's for? If we're doing calculations for time. What's that last line there say? So it's the option to compute intermediate keyframe values using a simple pacing algorithm. Have you ever used the pacing algorithm? Me either. What does it do though? It results in an evenly paced animation. So it's going to give you the smoothest animation that you can get. Let's make a keyframe animation. I'm going to get rid of this guy. I'm going to say, again, the one we're going to want to use is calculate mode paste. The animations, now in here we've got a block of stuff. In this block of stuff, we can add keyframes, just like we did there. Our animation is just going to be, this animate keyframes is going to be a series of these things with a duration and a relative start time. So if we have a 3-second animation, then we could add XYZ number of animations within those 3 seconds, just keeping in mind the start time and the duration of each of those animations. Let's start simple. Let's make a one keyframe long animated keyframe. I know that's really cool and exciting. Let's animate this using one keyframe, so only one thing happening. What would its relative start time be? Who said that? Rod, say it again. 0. So the very first keyframe starts at time 0. This whole thing's going to happen over 3 seconds. This keyframe, the changes here, are going to be from time 0 until the end of the duration. If we want this guy to only have one keyframe in it, what should be the relative duration? Say that again? 3. So if we're only going to have one keyframe here, only one change, then it should be with relative start time of 0 and a duration of 3, because this whole animation block is going to last 3 seconds. Now, just like we've been doing with animations, we can do anything we want here. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff. That was the old one that I copied. And so the $500 million question is, when we press this key button, what do you guys want to happen? It's going to happen for 3 seconds. Malcolm, what do you want to do? Flip? Let's say we want to move it for 3 seconds. Where do you want it to go? All right. How can we do that? How can you help me do that? UI view? So I've actually got a view. I've got a view called My View already in here. Yep. And the nice thing about this block is it's going to do the same thing as UI view.animates animation block. So I can do whatever I want, any like changes in the visual layout. How do we get it to the top? So sorry, again, this is just doing the animation for us. We just want to describe the movement that's going to go on in the animation. Let's see. I've got it set up with constraints. So we're probably going to change one of the constraints. My view has a center Y, center X, width, and a height. Which of those constraints do you think we could change there?
Height.
Let's change the height. Okay.
The height.
You okay? You okay?
Yeah.
All right. So let's say we need to change some constraint. Well, which one is it? Height, anchor. Let's make that equal to, I don't know, self.view dot. Okay. What do you want to do with center Y?
Change it to the center Y of the view with
If I want it to go up, should I be increasing or decreasing that number? Cool. So the center Y anchor has a constant. Oh yeah, but oh. Gonna be less than. So view center Y anchor equal to, let's say, go up by 200 points. Make this active. What do y'all think is going to happen there? Over 3 seconds. Should we run it? Oh no. What's going on? It's going to attempt to recover. Oh no. I think that mask is still on for my key. So I guess if I wanted to do this, I would need to say something like self.myView. It's probably going to be really annoying to change this every time. Let's see. Oh no. More constraints to change. That's really annoying. Ah, okay. So if I look at the output here, if I just go ahead and make this change right here, it says there are two conflicting constraints. So I can make it bigger. One saying it should be centered, and that's active, and one saying it should be centered with the view minus 200, and that's also active. So if I want to activate this new constraint, I would have to make the other one inactive, right? Just thinking about how constraints work. If we did this in a storyboard, I'd have two constraints for this my view, and it would have one saying it should be centered right in the middle Y, but also have another one saying it should be centered in the middle Y, but up 200. So maybe this isn't the approach we want to take. How do we do it on Friday? Or Sam, what's a suggestion you might have? Okay. Cool. Var my view center Y constraint is a center Y axis. What should I make it? Let's layout constraint. Cool. And how'd you initialize that? Which one of these guys? This guy? It's equal to self. Make this guy lazy, so I can reference self.myView dot y anchor. My bad. How's that? All right. What's this about? Oh man, they tell you to fix. What did I do? What did I not add here? Put it a different way. Jason, what is this? What's that? Yeah, I mean, syntactically that's the right answer, but can you tell me what's going on? Sorry? So initializers are just a function, right? What are these braces? Yeah, so you're calling the closure. You're just saying, do this stuff. Now I'm just going to make sure later when I set up my view center Y anchor down here, oh, don't do that. I'm going to instead say, just use that lazy variable. There. Great. Now I can reference in my key button. Sam, what should I do from here? Let's see what happens. Damn, I can't do a plus equals? Oh, thank you. Why do I need a self? I'm within another closure. Yay! All right, so, oh, that didn't work. Why? I kept it plus, but why didn't it animate it? Right, like this should happen over 3 seconds, no? That's gone. Any ideas? We haven't said what to do between the 0 and the 3. We've not said what to do between the 0 and the 3. We've just said at the 0 and the 3. Let's see. What if I make this a 2-second keyframe animation? Nothing happens for the first second, but for the second, it should make that change. Let's play around with it. All right, there's a little delay. What about if I say, only do this for 0.4 seconds? Damn. So it's not doing those pretty things we liked it to do before. It's not actually like making that move in the way we want it to. Tia.
It's jumping, right? Like it's not moving from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
We use different codes for that because every single second, every single millisecond of a second needs to be accounted for.
Every second, every millisecond of a second. That's right. That's correct. So let's make a few of these and see what happens. I'm just going to make it go up and down, up and down, up and down. It's going to go up, then down, then up, then down. So for every 0.4 seconds, it's going to wiggle. It's my hope. All right, so I've got 5 keyframes in here, each of them lasting 0.4 seconds with a start time right after the other. So this goes 0.4, this goes 0.4, a total of 0.8, this goes 0.4, a total of 1.2, this goes 0.4, a total of 1.6, and then this rounds out the final 2-second duration. Let's see what happens. Damn. What's it doing every time? It's just going up. Let's see if we change some numbers here. So now it's doing nothing. It's actually going through, doing all these changes, but it's not going to animate them because for our keyframes, we have to do something a little different, something a little more mathy, something a little less easy, honestly. But it goes back to what Anthony was telling us. He had a turtle. So Anthony made a turtle, and he wanted to transform his turtle size. A transformation, I know this is annoying and goes back to math, but, oh, that's nothing. No, it's lost. Yeah. So a transformation is just you taking anything in a two-dimensional plane, or at least a transformation for the sake of our computers and how we're dealing with layout. Taking anything in a two-dimensional plane and you are changing it is the only mapping thing you need to know. In an affine transformation, you're preserving two things about You're preserving two things about whatever that thing you're transforming is. So one of those things is you're maintaining all of the lines of that thing. This is really exciting, right? Everyone's saying that. It's great. This is going to be so important. Also, this is definitely an interview question. What is an affine transformation? It maintains the lines. So if I have a square, there are an infinite number of lines going up and down. And there are an infinite number of lines going side to side. No matter what I do for this transformation to be affine, all those lines must exist. So let's say I rotate this 90 degrees. Those lines are now there and there. All those lines still exist. Weird, right? For our sakes, all that means is that the shape kind of stayed the same. And by kind of stayed the same, I mean that the other thing that must be maintained is the ratio. So this can grow by 2x in both directions, so long as the ratios maintain all the same. Awesome, right, Leona?
I understand it.
Because you were all getting tired at once. Didn't mean to sit down. Also, Albert was there. Okay, please have a seat. Means that this grew by twice in both directions.
Okay, so the size ratio is not
Correct. Infinite lines. Yes. It's more like if this line and this line have the same length, they both grew by 2. It doesn't mean this has to stay the same shape. You could grow it by twice in the width and 3 times in the height at the same time. But all lines next to each other must maintain their ratio. I swear it's an interview question. What we've been doing here is we've just been changing an attribute about our squares. We've not been really doing a transformation. We've not been doing something on a 3-dimensional plane where we say how it should grow, how it should move, anything like that. And this is the case where we're going to want to use a CG affine transformation for our keyframes. Yes? What's the answer? What?
Like in the video?
Oh, sure. Sure. Okay, so there might be an interview question. If you remember from last week, there was an interview question. I started recording at like 11:46, at 10:46, so like an hour and 4 minutes in is where the interview question is. Last week we talked about frame versus bounds. Bounds is the position relative to itself, and frame is the position relative to its superview. Today we were talking about an affine transformation. An affine transformation, or for two objects to be in affinity, I know, I love throwing out these words, means that all of the lines from that transformation have been preserved, I know, and that the ratios of those lines are preserved as well. So if a rectangle has an infinite number of lines in it, that same number infinity exists after the transformation. Or to break it down, if the rectangle only had 4 lines before, if we change it, it's got to have 4 lines again after. If those lines each had length 2 for all parallel lines going up and down, then if we doubled the size, all those lines would need to have a length 4. Visually, all it means is that we're able to convert between rectangles. We're able to make them bigger. We're able to change their position and change their orientation. But an affine transformation is something a little bigger. Question?
By lines, you mean like lines of pixels and positions?
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of our actual iOS apps, like a way you could visualize it is making sure that all the concurrent lines for the number of points that your rectangle is taking up are preserved.
Are the circles we made rectangles?
Yep. All right, actually, great question. Ask it to the class.
Are the circles we made rectangles? Yes.
Yes, in what way? How did we make those rectangles into circles? Yeah, we just played with the layer. So the view itself still is a square. And we just said, like, present the visual of rounded corners. But if this was a button, I could still press here. And that would still press the button.
Inside a shape, like a rectangle, are there a set number of lines or are there infinite lines?
Theoretically, infinite, practically finite. How to measure those lines is really like abstracting it a little too far. What it's saying is that orientation and ratio preserve the same object. So you could do these transformations and transform that. Graphs. 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 They're graphs. Graphs. They're pretty tight. You're going to learn about different kinds of graphs. Well, directed graphs. Let's take a 6-minute break. What?
I like that.
This or graphs? Okay. Graphs.
Are we using these ever?
Not for right now. Whoa. Look at those beach balls. Ooh, that's cool. Do what? Yeah. No, you can make one. You can make in terms of actually the image or the UI. Yeah. So you can just stay tuned one UI image and then add on for different teams. Make that a variable called fuseball image. And that's for each of them is set to.
This is where an array of all.
So it starts black and then fades into white. I'm trying to make the bar down here like so the entire screen is
Yeah, so if you look at your reference every view controller has a navigation controller that's an optional, right? So if you don't edit the navigation controller, that navigation controller is R is no, so sorry. So like similar to a navigation controller works where you have self that navigation controller, even if you didn't actually set up the navigation controller. Same for tab bar.
well, I thought, yeah, I thought that's how it really happens. It's the exact same thing. It's happening. It's not the same pressure.
So where you would add in the tab bar, like where those icons get set up. I'm just asking like where
Isn't it out of that? So I separate this out. I just set the links. The other stuff too. Actually, no, I think I might. Should I just set closer to you?
Okay. So, check it out. Also, yeah, if you can't see, if you've downloaded my project and you can't see any of the simulators, let's just look at this real quick as a class. I think we've done it before, but you can set the target version. Just roll back maybe 1 or 2. I'm on the latest Xcode, which is like a tiny bit better than the original Xcode 13 release. But you can always roll back if you don't see simulators, and then click over here and maybe see them. Sorry? Okay. Cool. All right. So, Anthony, you are our third approach. You performed a transformation on your something. I think it was a turtle. Do you want to come up and show us how to do that? All right. Can you pull it off your laptop? And ultimately, what I want to happen is when you press key, it will make that change for us. Are you cool with that? Okay. You can do that same transformation that you did just inside of this block. Cool? Cool. Thanks, Anthony. So, all yours.
What did you call the view?
I'm sorry?
What did you call the? Oh, it's just called my view.
Yes, my view.
You
Can you
said
talk us through what you did?
sure. Let me just make sure. That I'm actually doing it right. So all I did was, for the animation that's to be performed in the closure, I just have self.myView, and I use the transform property from it, and then I set that equal to the CG affine transformation, and the initialization I did was the scale. So this is going to scale the view by, I don't know, I put 2 and 2. So whenever you press the key button, it's going to take the view, it's going to transform it using the CG affine transformation, and it's going to scale the x by 2 and the y by 2. Those just being the points. And then for this, does it not have the, I combined the auto reverse, and then I combined it with repeat. So now it's gonna,
Why does it move to the bottom of the screen?
I'm guessing we added
Is all
other
those-
stuff here.
All those transformations we were making with keyframes are still happening. So if you got rid of them, you wouldn't see it.
Why is it not shrinking up? There it is. So yeah, it's just taking the view, it's transforming it using the CG affine transformation, it's scaling the x point by 2, the y point by 2, and then I'm using these options. Auto reverse reverses the animation that you did, and it has to be combined with dot repeat, otherwise it starts to look a little bit buggy. Like if you just do this, oh, yeah, see, it kind of like goes back to the original shape, and then it just looks weird. I think it also says for the option when you use it, it doesn't say it here, but it says in the bottom, I think, must be combined with repeat to give it that smooth animation.
So actually, there's something very interesting going on here as well. We said perform this transformation over 0.4 seconds. And then only at the end of the entire duration of our set of keyframes does it do the auto reverse and the repeat. So we could do any old thing we want in here. Any transformation, which again is just changing some two-dimensional object on some thing. Let's make it do a bunch of transformations over, I don't know, 2 seconds. First time it grows twice as large. I'm going to get rid of this auto reverse and repeat. I'm just going to have it do this like in the calculated paste. All right, what do you want it to do after it grows twice as large? Ian. No. Bring it back to what it was originally. Let's do a different transformation. Check this out. Maybe we could review this after lunch, but you can do a whole bunch of transformations just besides making something bigger. You could return an affine transformation matrix constructed from a rotation value you provide. Rotations are taking something and turning it, right? Yay, 9th grade stuff. Don't worry, I didn't like it either. So let's rotate this by, I don't know, something. 45. All right, let's see what happens. So first it's going to grow, then it's going to rotate. We're going to have to talk about more 9th grade stuff real soon. I'm sorry. Grow, rotate, grow, rotate, grow, rotate. I did, yeah. Let's look at one thing just real quick. I took out the repeat and the auto reverse. When I do this, it stays just as big. But when I transform my view, each time I call self.myView.transform, it's going off the original, I guess, size that I set up that view to be, which I set up in the constraints area here. So when I press this, it's rotating it, but first it made it bigger. So now, for this second keyframe, it's trying to transform the object based on the original my view. So it's doing this transformation where it rotates it 45 degrees based on the original my view. And so when this guy is getting bigger, it's trying to go back to the original orientation of my view. And then when it goes to rotate in that second keyframe, it's again corresponding to the original my view, which is why this looks like it's just repeating itself. We have to make a new instance every time. Yes, so my view, the properties that we're transforming, while the physical layout has changed, my view itself, so in terms of its constraints, we haven't updated those constraints. So we need to update this in some way. Maybe we would update the frame some other way. But for now, let's just add more keyframes and play around with this. What else should we make our square do? Change shape? Interesting. How can we do that? aspect ratio? Yeah. So we could do that by changing y and x in a different proportion. Let's try it out. What's that? Ooh, how can we round the corners? Okay. No worries. Corner radius? Let's try it out. Make it bigger, rotate it, make it a rectangle. Make it bigger, rotate it. Oh, I added these guys. Sorry about that. Twice as big, turn it, make it a rectangle. Twice as big, turn it, make it a rectangle. What else should we do? See it. Make it disappear. Add keyframe with relative start time, 1.2, 0.4. Animations. Is there a way we can animate making something disappear? What? Ooh, what is that? My view dot fade out like that? Let's see if that works. Interesting. Did it start before? It's a good question. Let's run it one more time. Start, go. When it's this guy. So it should start right after, like this is 4, 8, 12, and then this should be at 12, right? Like each of these accumulate up to 12. So this should be happening right then. But if we look, it actually starts right at the beginning, because just like when we were changing the position, it tries to do that right away. We need some kind of transformation that does that only at this time. Let's see if this works. So for 0.4 seconds, self.myView. Nope. Dot alpha equal to 0.0. Hope this works. Oh no, it doesn't work. Damn. Someone look up how to make it work? I'm sure now that we know a bunch about animations, closures, start times, keyframes, we can probably figure out how to make it disappear only at a certain point in time. What about this? What if I said, after you do all that stuff, in the completion, do that. Cool. So when does completion get executed? Once the whole animation is over. So we got a bunch of keyframes. This guy dances for us, gets bigger, turns, becomes a rectangle, and then disappears with a whole new UI view animation. We can chain these things together. Yep. I just want it to disappear. You sent me something in Slack? Oh my God. Thank you. How do you all feel about this? So here's going to be your task until lunch, because I think we're going to have to come back briefly after lunch. I'm going to push this up. I want you to make a keyframe animation such that, let me set it up right now. Boop, 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 boop. So set up a keyframe animation that has the view fall down, just like our ball from the other day, but sway side to side as it does that. Sam, can you demonstrate that for everyone again? Like a leaf. Cool. Oh, you know what? Let me leave that code in so you know what it looks like. Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you, hang on. Using what? Yeah, but here's the thing, is this transform, if I were to refer to my view again, my view has not changed. Transform is just transforming how it's actually appearing. If I looked at my view and it had a height, a width, an X, and a Y, it still has those properties. What's shown up is a little bit different. So what's shown up, if we look at transform, CGF on transform, is just some manipulation of that original view only in the view. So the object saved in the controller is different than what you see. The way it's laid out is whatever that transformation says to do. But when I reference my view every time, it's still the same thing. So these CG affine transformations, again, are just some changing of something in a two-dimensional plane, but my view is much more than that. It's actually an object of type UI view. I know, it's very fun. So we say old code that grow, twist, make into rectangle, to do. All right. We are going to come back after lunch. 2 o'clock. Downgrade the target.